Hi, everybody. This is Nisha Zachary. Welcome back to Permission to Leap. Today we have with us Clarissa Wilson. Clarissa is an accountant turned money coach because women deserve to have financial independence, but she was seeing way too many women lack financial independence through her work as an accountant. Now it's time for women to take that power back. When she isn't watching The Big Bang Theory or Two Broke Girls, she is helping women build their relationships with money so they can have a financial independent future once and for all. Hi, Clarissa. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about your story? How did you get to where you are doing what you do?
Well, I grew up on a dairy farm, and as most of you know, there really is no money in growing up on a farm. And I had a really horrible money story myself, where I was always told, we can't afford that, there's no money for that, all of that fun stuff. And I knew that when I went to college, I needed to go for something more like that can give me a real good salary. And I ended up taking an accounting class in 10th grade, and I just fell in love with accounting. So I kept taking accounting classes. I went to college to get my bachelor's degree in accounting. And then when I graduated with that degree, jobs were really hard to come by because it was the financial crash in 2008, 2009. So yeah, I couldn't really get a job, so I was struggling. And I didn't know that this was all part of my money story. And right after I started struggling with all these jobs, I learned about money stories and really came into being more spiritual and working with that kind of stuff. And that's when I learned about money stories and building a relationship with your money. And then by being able to change my own money story, I kind of fell into the coaching of helping other people because they wanted to know how I changed my money story from actually living less than paycheck to paycheck. One paycheck wouldn't even cover a week's worth of bills.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was able to change that. And then right after I really started changing it, I actually landed my dream job that I wanted when I graduated college as an auditor for the government.
Nice.
And yes. And it was double the salary of the last job I had. So I was able to live more than paycheck to paycheck. I had more than enough money every week to be able to pay everything. And that was because I had just started working on my money story. And working on your money story is something you have to work on every day. It's not a once here, once there kind of thing.
So you can't just clear it up and be done with it.
Nope. Because stuff will continue to come up, because I had something come up this morning where I was like, I already dealt with that. And then when I start like digging into it, there's more of something that I didn't deal with.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you say that budgets suck.
Yes.
And you want to teach women to create a spending plan that works.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between a budget and a spending plan?
Okay. The biggest thing is everyone, including myself, thinks a budget is really restrictive. It's this is where your money's going and this is the only way it can go. That's a mindset thing for how we think that. So I changed that to a spending plan. And a spending plan, it can be a couple different ways, but the way that I use it and the way that I teach it is you take the check that you just received, whether it's from your own business or from a job, you take that check and you split it 3 ways. 50% goes to your living expenses, your main expenses. 20% goes to savings, and the other 30% can be split between your whatever kind of spending you want to spend on that's not included in your living expenses, and saving for the future.
Okay. So a lot of women struggle with this money aspect.
Yes.
First of all, what's your definition of permission?
Being able to do what you want, basically.
Okay, so from that, how does permission apply to the spending plan?
You are able to do with your money what you want to do. You're able to tell it where to go, to be able to not be so restrictive. And if you are living paycheck to paycheck or less than paycheck to paycheck like I was, you have a way to split it out so that it works for you. That's what a spending plan is. It works for you, because that 30%, you can take that and add it to that 50% if you need to.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so what are some common lies, myths, or misconceptions that you hear about budgeting, spending plans, and women and money in general?
Well, a big thing is that it's like you have to do this, this, and this, where you have to follow these rules. There really are no rules. You make the rules how you want to live them.
Okay.
You can't just say, let's look at Dave Ramsey for an example. You can't follow exactly what he does if it doesn't work for you.
Right.
You have to find what actually works for you, and that's why I was able to change budgeting into a spending plan, because spending plans work for me. And everyone that I teach, it works for them too, because like I said, a budget is so restrictive.
Right.
You can't work around it because there's that mindset issue that you have where it's like stuck that way. You can't really change it. But a spending plan, you can change. You have those 3 percentages, but if you need to, you can move them around.
Okay, I like that. So in your money story, what was that one point where it's like, I have to change something? And I know you said like you were living less than paycheck to paycheck. So what was that point that just drove you to say, I have to change something or I have to give up?
Well, at the time I was living less than paycheck to paycheck. I was making probably $300 a week. This is take-home cash. And I wasn't being paid enough for the work that I was doing. I was basically running an entire company.
Wow.
And then I woke up at 2:00 on a Saturday morning, and there was a fire in the apartment next door. And that fire was actually a message from the universe that I needed to change. I hated the job that I was working. It didn't pay me enough to begin with, but it was super stressful.
Right.
And I needed to make that change, or they were going to make the change for me. Well, they made the change by having a fire in the apartment next door. And I was actually the only one in the building that didn't lose any physical belongings.
Wow.
I was sleeping when this happened. I woke up, just no fire alarms. I just woke up. And I had smoke damage, but I didn't lose anything because of the way that the building was, and the fire was literally in the apartment next door. Wow. The hallway went down the middle of the building. So the firefighters actually protected my apartment because their backs were to my apartment. Okay. But that fire was what like just woke me up and was like, you need to make a change, or we're going to continue to force you to make a change.
Wow. Talk about a wake-up call.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So what was the pivoting moment that you actually gave yourself permission? What did you do in that moment? Like you said you needed to make a change. So what was it that you did?
Well, because it was a fire, and like actually you kind of like break down in the moment, like, but after I broke down and I like got back up, I was like, okay, I'm listening, tell me what to do. And the universe actually helped me be able to make that change. I took a year off from working. I lived with my parents and worked on their dairy farm, but I had so much more come to me. And that was when I actually started my business. I really changed my money story. I started my business, and I started helping other people be able to change their money stories as well.
Okay.
Because I just finally listened, and I made the change that I was supposed to change.
Okay, so you recognized that you were supposed to change.
Yes.
You got knocked over the head.
Yep.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. When you were making the change, when you were on your parents' farm, what made you lean towards starting your own business?
I did not like any of the jobs that I was applying for. I didn't want to keep applying for jobs.
Okay.
I did end up getting that job, like I mentioned, with the government as an auditor, 6 months after I started my business. But I was unemployed for a whole year living with my parents, and the fire was in September, and I started my business in March.
Okay.
So it was just like, I kind of like had to, like, I just went with the flow of things, and it just fell into place for me to start my business and be able to, like I said, make this change, because I didn't want to work any of the jobs that I was applying for.
Okay.
I was sick of applying for jobs. And
Yeah, I understand that.
yeah, and living on a dairy farm and actually working, I mean, I had the time during the middle of the day when most people are at their 9 to 5s.
Right.
And I could actually work on my business. And that's when most of your full-time business owners do work on their business. So it was really easy for me to be able to work with other people during that time.
Okay. That makes sense. So, what is something that anyone can do right now to create their own spending plan and make that mindset shift?
The very first thing you want to do is get out 2 to 3 months of bank statements and credit card statements, and then write down the 3 categories: your basic living expenses, saving, and the other one was other spending. And in those 3 categories, write out all of the stuff for where you spend your money.
Okay.
And figure out what your base percentages are to start with. You want to get it to 50, 20, and 30, but it might not be that when you start.
Right.
And that's why it's a spending plan, because it's flexible. You can change those percentages however you need to, but you want to get them to that 50, 20, and 30.
Okay, so start with the percentages. Okay. So if somebody has a high percentage for their household, like say it's 75% for their household, what would be one step that you would recommend that they take to reduce that percentage?
Look at what makes up that total 75%. Are you spending 60% on your mortgage or rent? And then the other 15% is on your utilities and all of that kind of stuff? Or are you spending 30% on your mortgage and rent, and the 45% is on like your utilities or food, all of that kind of stuff? Like, you have to figure out where the biggest percentage of that is. If
Right.
it's in your living expenses, like the first example, you're spending 65% on your mortgage or rent, either that's where you have to either make more money or find a cheaper place to live. But if it's the other way around, where you're only spending 30, 35% on your mortgage or rent, then the other stuff, you can easily cut that. It's very hard to cut your mortgage or rent.
Right.
But it's easy to cut your utilities and the amount you spend on food and that kind of stuff.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So what is the mindset shift that it takes to create a spending plan? Like, what's the big thing that has to click?
You have to be able to track your money into the 3 categories, which is your basic living expenses, your savings, and your other spending. You have to be able to track it into those, because even for me, tracking was a horrible experience. I hated tracking. I would do it for, I would go back and I'd do a whole month at one time, and then I'd track for the first 3 days of the next month, and then I'd stop doing it. So what I started doing is I actually got a day planner.
Okay.
And on each day, I write what I spend.
Oh, wow.
And and I still do track my spending.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Do you keep going with it?
Yep. Do it. Just continue to do it, because the more that you continue to do it and you see where you're spending, then you can do one of two things. You can cut out spending that you don't need.
Right.
Or you can see whether it's a specific time of the month that you are just overspending.
Right.
Because that's what I did. It was a specific time of the month where I was just overspending, because around the fire happened September 21st. So around the 21st of every month, I would just go out and spend.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting that connection was there, even though it was so much later in life.
Yep. Like it can be something like that. Like for me, it was the fire. It can be the loss of a loved one or the loss of a job, anything like that. It can cause you to go out and spend.
Okay.
And so just keep tracking your spending, and you don't want to analyze it. Just write it down. Just the act of writing down what you spent can just help you with like, oh, I have to write that down. I can't spend that money.
Okay. So it's kind of like a mental blocker, like,
yep.
A kick in the pants. Hey, don't do that.
Yeah, because that's
really
kind of like a mindset shift where you have to write it down. If you don't want to write it down, then you're not going to spend it.
Right. Because God forbid somebody sees that I went and made this purchase.
Right.
I look back and say, did I really do that?
Exactly.
So before, what was holding you back from living this life that you wanted to live?
I was stuck in the money relationship that I had from when I was growing up, because your money relationship is actually formed by everyone that you are around when you're growing up.
Okay.
And so I was stuck in the money relationship that my parents had, how we never have enough money. The money that we do have, we have to spend all of it plus some.
Okay.
I was stuck in that. And then when I learned about money stories and I learned what I was actually doing to myself by sabotaging my money story, things started to fall into place for me. Like I started tracking my money regularly. And I came up with my own spending plan. I found other spending plans online, but I had to come up with something that actually worked for me.
Okay.
It works for everyone that I talk to, but it's flexible. You can change it the way that you want to change it. Like a budget, you can't change.
Right. They're very distinct categories, and this is what goes in each one.
Right.
Okay, so what was the best advice that you've ever received?
Just keep going. Because like after the fire, it was just like, you got to keep going. You can't just give up now.
Right. So just keep moving forward.
Yep.
So you say you track your money. What's one other personal habit that you have that contributes to your success?
Talking to more people like you. Like I do my own podcast where I help other women share their money story.
Right.
Some of the episodes, I actually end up coaching them. It just ends up that way. But that coaching is then on an episode that anyone can listen to.
Okay.
It can help anyone change their money story. So just being able to talk more, especially about money.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about your podcast. What's the name of it and where can we find it? What days is it on?
The name of the podcast is the Prosper and Profit Podcast. You can actually find it on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio.
Okay.
If you go to prosperprofitpodcast.com, the links to find it on iTunes and Stitcher are right there in the sidebar. I publish an episode on Tuesdays, which is just me teaching you something. And on Thursdays is an interview with a woman sharing her money story.
Okay.
And then the first Monday of every month, I also channel my own guided meditations for you.
Oh, okay. I like that. So
those are very popular.
How does the meditation help you with your money story?
Because they're guided meditations. The first one was about finding your money story. Like, I actually channel these myself. I go into a meditation myself and I just write these meditations. So the first one was on finding your money story. The second one was on something else about your money story. I can't remember exactly. And the one for the beginning of October was opening to receive abundance.
Okay.
And the one at the beginning of November is actually seeing the size of your receiving bucket.
What is a receiving bucket?
How much money you can actually receive right now.
So, okay, for those that don't understand the concept of receiving, can you explain that a little bit more?
Yes. Okay. Let's see. I have to try to see how I can explain it. Okay. So right now, if someone was to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you able to receive $1 million?
And most people would say 10. Of course I want $1 million.
They want it, but are you able to receive it?
So there's a difference.
Yes. Everyone always wants it. Yes.
Right.
But are you able to actually receive it right now? What are you going to do to push this away? And that is how the size of your receiving bucket will show you what you need to do to receive. This meditation goes into it a little bit more of something you can do to start receiving right now. Okay. The very first time I put this meditation out, because I have had this meditation out for a while, someone's receiving bucket was a spoon.
Wow.
Like a spoon that you eat dinner with. That's what their receiving bucket was. And your intuition is guiding you for the size of this receiving bucket.
So does that mean, like, if you're not able to receive, are you blocking it by, you can
be blocking it anyway, any kind of way. It can be your past with money. It can be what you learned from your parents from money. For me, it was what I learned from my parents.
That's amazing. A spoon.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you said that's the one for November?
Yes, it will be live on November 7th or 8th, whatever that Monday is.
Okay.
The 7th.
Okay. Oh, that's exciting. I think that's a good one that everybody needs to go check out, because I think if you don't understand the concept of receiving, mm-hmm. and you don't understand the difference between receiving your ability to receive and your want to receive.
Yes.
That's a big blocker right there. And I think before the Infinite Receiving Program with Maru, I didn't get that either. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, of course, I want this. Why is it not coming to me? You say the universe is able to do whatever, but if you don't understand that piece that you're talking about,
right.
Like one of the biggest blocks. So that's awesome.
Yeah, because there's that big, huge difference between what you want to receive versus what you are able to receive.
Right. That's crazy. That's awesome. I'm going to look forward to that one. So, what is your parting piece of guidance for women when it comes to money?
My biggest parting piece of guidance would probably be to actually track your money, because that'll help you see where your current receiving actually is, because you're tracking what you're bringing in and what you're spending.
Right.
And by seeing what you're bringing in, that shows you what you can actually receive. But then it also shows you parts of your money story, whether you're overspending or you're actually hoarding your money.
Oh, wow. Okay, never thought about the hoarding concept. We're going to have to do this again so we can go there.
Oh, these episodes are all coming up in my podcast.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
There's actually 5 different money personalities. I don't have them all in front of me right now.
Okay.
Overspending and hoarding are 2 biggest ones.
Okay, that makes sense. Because you want to like just get it all before,
Yeah.
you're not sure when you're going to get any more, or you
Right.
hold on to it because you're not sure when you're going to get any more.
Exactly.
Oh gosh. Okay, so what's the best way that people can connect with you?
You can find me as Clarissa A. Wilson on Twitter and Instagram. And Facebook is Clarissa Wilson LLC. And then there is ClarissaAWilson.com.
Okay. Okay, so underneath, we're going to have a link to your website and all of your social media accounts. Can you tell a little bit about your free gift, the spending plan?
So I am actually giving you a guide to creating your spending plan. And this will walk through how to create your actual spending plan.
Okay, perfect. And there's going to be a link to that under there. So go under there, click on the link, and it'll take you to Clarissa's website, and you can sign up and get the spending plan. Sorry. So I think that this was awesome information. I think that a lot of women are scared of talking about money. So I thank you for coming on here and sharing your knowledge. And hopefully everybody will go connect with you so that they can change their money story and let the abundance flow to them.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right, thank you so much. You have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.